Welcome to the Worthiness Rebellion, a sacred revolt where you unlearn self-betrayal and rise into the truth that your worthiness was never up for debate. It's time to speak, time to lead, and time to take up space. I'm your host, Lindsay Morlock. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. I have had this recurring thought. It's actually this belief that integrity has cost me in so many ways. So today, for this episode, I thought I'd take you on a little ride down that stream, and you will see where it leads. For me, some truths I'm holding at the moment are that I absolutely love the person I have become as a result of all of this healing process. I don't actually think I ever believed that I could really achieve a healthy self-image and a healthy self-esteem. I don't think that I ever realized that I could deeply embody, no less understand, self-love. And not only have I achieved all of these things, but I am now living the most authentically and the most peaceful inner existence that I have ever lived as a function of all of these things. And this is huge. I know I can feel how huge this is. And yet, there's also this part of me that does not love the external conditions that have emerged as a result of my focus on healing my inner world. Now, if you listen to season 4 of the podcast, you probably heard my journey chasing after this entrepreneurial dream and a new life adventure, moving to Arizona, quitting my full-time job in search of a different life. And that dream, if you listen to season 4, really did not result in the outcomes I expected it would. But recently, Spirit said to me, we know this journey was not what you would have scripted it to be. And we want you to understand you did create your dream. You just created a different dream than what you thought you were creating. You created an inner dream, and that inner dream was much bigger. So, spoiler alert, the dream Spirit is referring to here that I created is that I finally claimed and healed my self-worth. And that result to me has truly been spectacular. I can acknowledge that. I mean, it's incredible how different I feel where I now am. And so I will share that to live a life that led me to loving myself, to achieve a life that led to me learning how to listen to my heart and to learn how to not abandon myself. To achieve that life was grueling just about every day. I really mean that. It was grueling. That work was so difficult to do. And I worked so freaking hard on myself every day. And yet, I can also be honest that on the other side of it, I was also deeply disappointed that I had created this incredible inner world that did not translate into an immediate, incredible external reality. And that really felt like a letdown, because what I realized is that over all of my years of learning, I adopted a belief along the way that if you change your inner world, your outer world will auto-magically mirror that. And I believed it as if it were spiritual law. And the reality of that was not true for me. I had this belief that if I changed my inner landscape, that suddenly I was going to be drinking Mai Tais in my beach mansion while my business was just passively generating all the income necessary for that. I mean, it's kind of a nice dream, right? Now, I'm being a little dramatic here to make a point because truthfully, this isn't even the life I fantasize about. But it is true that I had created these ideas within me about what would auto-magically show up externally when I achieved that inner result. And in the creation of my new inner landscape, what actually happened in my external reality was a complete clearing of the decks, a total shedding of so many things in my external life, I've lost count. And in that, my external reality wasn't reflecting any material form of the upgrades that I was so deeply feeling had shifted in my inner landscape. And that was a head scratcher to me. Sometimes that seeming incongruence led me to question myself and to question whether I really did change my inner world to the extent that I believed that I had. So as I explored this with spirit, they helped me to see this from a different perspective. And what they helped me to understand is that the external life conditions my soul actually wants required me to become a person who is deeply aligned with their own integrity, their own truth and authenticity. And from a place of deep inner integrity, meaning from a place of being deeply congruent with myself, with my soul, I had to commit to and take responsibility for becoming that person. I had to take responsibility for becoming the person who creates the life I want to create. And the process of that has come with a tremendous amount of letting go. It has come with needing to be radically honest with myself and with others. It has required me trusting my own knowing, trusting my own clarity, trusting my own truth in the face of great judgment and disapproval and disparagement from others. It has required me to say no, to protect my boundaries. It has required me to step out of performative spaces. It's required me to continuously look within, hold myself, understand my emotions, and excavate the deeper why that drive my beliefs and my behaviors. It's required so much fine-tuning within me, even after the big work was done. Fine-tuning my work, fine-tuning my passions, how I show up. I've had to walk away from people and circumstances that couldn't or wouldn't meet me. I've had to shed old ways of being, old ways of doing, old ways of thinking, old patterns I was operating from. And what I will say is shifting any one of these things is hard. So imagine 4 years of doing all of these things consistently, simultaneously, and with ruthless commitment. It was really hard. It was deeply uncomfortable. And it has required ruthless self-love and making choices that are radically self-honoring. When I think about the process, sometimes spirit flashes me to the Twister scene from The Wizard of Oz, where it felt like everything within myself and my life was caught in the swirl, scrambling every single thing up in the air, right down to all of my furniture. And the only things that remained when the swirl calmed were the people and the circumstances most true to my authentic self. And I will tell you, much of my furniture didn't even make the cut. I either sold or donated 2/3 of the stuff in my storage unit because those things didn't even feel like me anymore. So my entire life was stripped pretty bare as a result of all of this. And by the end, there wasn't much left. And that is not an exaggeration. it was a struggle to keep realizing that even when I thought I had let go of everything, there still ended up being more things that had to go. And so at times, this really felt like the never-ending story. Now, from a spiritual perspective, of course, you have to strip away everything that is not true for you anymore. That makes sense to me logically. And yet, the reality of what actually gets stripped away, I find that few people are talking about the deep grief that comes with recognizing just how many inauthentic people, inauthentic relationships, untrue circumstances, inauthentic ways we behave or show up for belonging, or whatever other things in our life that aren't really in alignment with who we are, right down to our possessions. We tend to hang on to all of these things simply because they've always been there, or because we're afraid to take a stand, or we're afraid we'll be rejected or abandoned if we really stand in our truth. Afraid that we won't belong, afraid that we'll fall behind or miss out, afraid that we'll be all alone. That is until one day you wake up and realize it's all gone anyway, because small choice by small choice to not abandon yourself, little by little, everything falls away until there's nothing untrue left. And when that happens, it feels like a grief relief sandwich. And you think you're done. You've shed all you can, only to realize that actually you've taken all the meat off the sandwich, you've taken all the substance away, but now you get to shed the condiments too. And the fine tuning of all of it begins until you realize your sandwich is naked, and also now it's got to be gluten-free. So the sheer amount of loss and sacrifice can feel brutal. And so because I was left with a life completely stripped externally of anything that resembled something I deeply desired, I was left with all of this empty space where things and people used to be. And I thought I did something massively wrong and felt like I must be doomed to keep struggling because although my inner world was radically different, I didn't see or feel the success of that inner landscape showing up in my external world. And in that belief, I started to feel like integrity and being deeply in my integrity had cost me. And at the same time, all along, I was thinking integrity was supposed to be rewarding me. But to be left stripped so bare, I started to question integrity itself because I wasn't able to see how being in integrity was rewarding me. I was only really focused on what I lost as a function of being in it. I wasn't focused on the fact that I felt so good every day, despite the fact that my external reality was completely crumbling. I wasn't focused on the fact that I felt more abundant in my life every day because all of the people and places and circumstances that were draining me were gone from my life. And therefore, I was no longer leaking energy or giving my power away. I wasn't focused on the fact that my newfound boundaries actually improved the relationships that remained in my life. And I wasn't focused on the fact that even though my external reality didn't look like what I wanted, I did still, in fact, have absolutely everything I needed. So I wasn't focused on those positive things. I had unconsciously stepped into a belief system that integrity costs you. And as a function of that belief, I stopped creating my life externally and kept my focus completely internal, convincing myself that if I just worked harder on myself, something might magically start to change outside of myself. And let me pause here for a second and name this for what it is. When you stop creating your life and expect a life to magically meet you, that's spiritual bypass. And I'm owning where I fell prey to that here because too many people aren't talking about how bypassy that is. In fact, I think many spiritual teachings and communities oversimplify the law of attraction as though your thoughts and feelings alone magically create your reality, but your choices and your willingness to participate in the co-creation of your life is shaped through the relationship between your inner world and the responsibility you take for how you step forward. In my own struggle with that, I stopped taking steps to support the process of creating the life externally I desired. So I took great responsibility for my inner world, and I was taking steps for staying aligned and integrity with what was in my reality. But I fell short when it came to taking responsibility for creating this new life I wanted to live. And the process created a lot of messiness for me. And despite what lessons it ended up revealing for me, externally, what I was left with was a life that felt pretty empty. But where spirit also directed my attention was to stop judging myself for where I stopped creating and actually acknowledge what I did create. They helped me to see that I actually did create a lot in this process just as a function of the responsibility I took for my inner world. But spirit reminded me about that here because I was too focused on what was missing from my external world. So in this reflection, spirit kicked it off for me and they said to me, "You've really changed. You've done hard work." They reflected how authentically I am now living my life. They reflected back to me how much love I'm willing to share. They reflected back to me how much self-worth I not only embody, but now live from each and every day. So in that, they reminded me that who I have become is someone who has been completely reborn. And I really feel the truth of all of that. Someone recently shared with me that she wished she could arrive at the place that I'm now in. And as I sat there listening to her own heart, I realized I was her. Every ache, every pain, every story she was sharing with me, every trauma that had imprinted for her was me, was my story, was my life, was how I felt. And what was so striking to me in that moment was being reminded of how hard that life was, how hard that life felt, and subsequently realizing that I don't experience any of those things anymore. I don't have those thoughts. I don't have those triggers. And I don't follow my mind down those same paths anymore. And anything that I do feel, I love myself through it without self-abandoning anymore. And that behavior alone, not abandoning myself, has changed my entire experience of moving through difficult things across the board. So I share this because in these moments of contrast, we actually can see how our reality did in fact change. And I know that was a gift to me from spirit, a gift to help me acknowledge how far I've come and just how different my inner world is now, to anchor into that knowing within myself. Because from the outside looking in, if I'm judging my inner progress by my external reality, no one, including me, would acknowledge how much I've changed. And it's a strange thing to feel like you've achieved something so big on the inside that absolutely no one can validate except me. This journey has not looked like perfection or certainty. It has looked like, again and again, choosing alignment over all else. Choosing alignment over comfort. Choosing integrity over belonging. Choosing alignment over money, over image, over attachment, and choosing my integrity even if it cost me something that seemed meaningful. And in all of that, it was a really powerful shift for me to understand how integrity is indeed rewarded. Because while sometimes integrity felt like loss and letting go, or sometimes it looked like my life crumbling down around me, or sometimes it felt like failure because so many things were leaving my life. Sometimes it felt like people were looking at me and judging me as if I were crazy and lost and wandering aimlessly through life. But Spirit encouraged me to look at all the different ways that integrity has been rewarded in my life, even if it hasn't exactly been rewarded in the ways that my mind would prefer. Because those rewards came in the form of honoring myself by walking away from environments and jobs and relationships and spiritual containers and opportunities that required self-abandonment in order to stay connected. It rewarded me in the ways I no longer shy away from difficult conversations with people. Where I used to stress that my truth might cost me the relationship, I now know that any relationship that costs me myself isn't something I'm interested in maintaining or sustaining. This leg of the journey has cost me a lot of relationships, and I share that because I know it's something a lot of people fear. But the relationships that are left in my life are people who actually have my best interests at heart. And that protection came from being in my integrity. Integrity protected me from people and relationships who cannot or will not fully meet me in the way I deserve or in the way I desire. Integrity protected me from those circumstances often before I even knew how unsafe they were. Integrity has protected me from having to maintain income streams that are not actually congruent with how my soul wants to create. Integrity has protected me from living belief systems that are outdated or no longer relevant or that erode my self-worth. Integrity has protected me from being in relationships in ways that cause me to give my power away. Integrity has stopped me from bleeding for people, for places, and for things. Integrity has helped me to claim right relationship with reciprocity and how to settle for nothing less. Integrity has helped me to understand that even if I'm on a slower path of manifestation and creation, I am on a deeply authentic and truer path of my heart. Integrity has helped me to understand that who we are on the inside is how we show up and are seen by people around us. And in that, I have never felt more seen by the people who are now in my life, seen for the real me, not for the masks that I used to wear. And this alone feels incredible. Integrity has shown me what a powerful internal guidance system I have and how clearly my body warns me when misalignment is present. That alone creates an inner safety unlike anything I have ever known. Integrity has shown me time and again what true responsibility and accountability look like. Integrity has helped me to heal without needing anything from anyone around me. Being in integrity has required me to be an excavator of the deepest motivations that drive the behavior within me. I have had to confront why I show up in relationships the way I do, why I'm triggered by certain situations or certain people, and what that wound is really showing me at the deepest level. Integrity has taught me how to not avoid my own discomfort and especially to never avoid myself, to lean in to my pain. And that alone has led to the deepest self-love and self-acceptance that I have ever known. Reclaiming my personal integrity has allowed me to understand my own wholeness and what it means to not abandon myself through anything. Integrity has shown me that I guide me, that I lead me. Integrity has restored my sovereignty. I choose me now, always, every day, without exception. I have an entirely new foundation from which I am living my life. It is an inner foundation. From how I witness my emotions and what I'm holding to how I process what all of that means. That allows me to see clearly and to come back into my own internal alignment again and again. This is foundational to my daily living. It keeps my energy clean. It allows me to stay connected to myself and offers me that resilience no matter what is happening around me. I am a deep, deep feeler. And if I am radically honest, I think that at one point I believed that if I were truly living from a place of integrity and truly living an aligned life, life would just feel good all the time. And that's just not true or realistic. Life doesn't feel good all the time. It is part of the human experience. It is part of the human condition. Even when life is good, it doesn't feel good all the time. We are never going to escape the discomfort of being human, no matter who you are. So I'm not pretending to be gallivanting through life like Susie Sunshine, pretending that all feels good when it doesn't. But here is what has shifted. All in my world becomes well because I'm willing to be present with my reality as those feelings arise. That's integrity. And this is now how I live my life. So in this deep congruence, I feel deeply connected to myself, to spirit, and my conscious power in ways that I once couldn't even fathom. And even in the moments when I may feel alone, I know I am deeply connected to myself. And I have learned that in every single thing that has fallen away, the truth of what was left was my authentic self. Spirit tells me that our authentic heart are always the safest place from which to create our external realities. And so when it comes to my external circumstances, I'm now in a place where the inner world that my integrity has built is now the place from which I get to co-create my external reality. All along, what was really happening was the construction of an inner landscape that truly reflects my heart and my highest self. And my heart, deeply connected to my emotions, allow me to feel whatever I feel. So I'm now able to be still and present with all of my emotions, all of my experiences, whatever that might be, the good, the bad, and the ugly, whenever they arise. I do not abandon myself in that anymore, not with people, not with circumstances, and I don't avoid myself or my emotions anymore. This is always the birthplace of integrity. So I share this with you because for so long I have been under this belief system that if you change your inner world, your external world will just auto-magically meet you and mirror that back to you. In fact, I'm sure I've even professed this to be true on my podcast or Substack somewhere. And I'm here to share now that I'm refining that message even within me. Because I do believe that it's true that our external world is a reflection of our inner reality. But to recognize that you cannot expect your life to change if you stop creating needs to be acknowledged. If you do nothing, nothing changes. And so what Spirit needed to help me temper is the fact that these things take time. It took me 4 years of a healing intensive to radically change my inner landscape. And I had the ability to treat my healing like a full-time job. Most people don't even have the ability to embark on the intensive that my soul decided to take. And I need to give myself time to build the external circumstances that I can now create and attract based on who I've become. But if we do nothing to change those external circumstances, nothing changes. So I can say with all sincerity that there has been nothing perfect about how I've moved through this journey. It has been a hot mess, full of many moments of struggle, discontentment, dissatisfaction, defeat, and a lot of tears. But despite all of that, I just kept swimming. I never gave up. I kept leaning into the work and to the healing, and I always found my way through to the consciousness that I needed to heal and to grow. I cannot fathom having to repeat this experience because of how wary my soul often feels from the journey, especially at this particular moment in time. And for any of you who are out there saying, yeah, Lindsay, this is super inspiring, sign me up, I can also say very genuinely that I don't regret a second of the work I've done on myself, the choices that I've made to honor myself, because even when they were hard, even when those choices felt like they've cost me, I love who I've become. And the entire journey has been worth it for that alone. I know how different my inner world is, and I've got a lot of life, hopefully left, of living to do. So 4 years in the grand scheme of things feels like a blip on the radar of my life compared to what I now get to create from this new inner landscape. I can feel how differently I move through each day, even in spite of the fact that my outer conditions are not yet what I desire, maybe especially given that reality. I know to hold myself, to not abandon myself. I chose to take the long road to learn how to slowly build capacity within my nervous system, to increase my personal capacity to hold what these new manifestations will actually require of me without getting sick, without burning out, without collapsing, and without self-sabotaging. And that's the difference. For me, I used to look for these quick fixes because I wanted to feel better faster. And the truth is that none of those formulas, none of those quick fixes actually brought me closer to what I wanted. They disconnected me more from myself. So although this has been a slower path, it has been the sustainable path, and what has created and anchored in a completely new rock solid foundation. This is the gold. This is the treasure, because once you create that kind of inner foundation, everything that then gets built is built from rock, not from sand that's just going to wash away with the first storm. It's built with this deep inner capacity and resourcing that allows you to hold you and hold what you want to attract. And yes, there are still actions I need to take to co-create the things that I want. But this inner foundation has also completely transformed my partnership with spirit to help me do that from this newfound place of worth and authenticity. And I have not always felt abundant with my relationship with spirit. That has been one of the relationships that my low self-worth has played out with. And now the relationship with spirit and how it's evolved is truly a reflection of my worthiness and the abundance that has come from this partnership and this co-creation blows my mind. This is no small thing, but it is something that no one really sees but me. Integrity. It's that definition of what we do or who we be when no one is watching. And so for me, even if no one can see who I have become, I know what is now alive within me. And to me, this is what prosperity feels like. So thanks for going on this journey with me today. I actually wrote a companion piece on Substack called Do Nothing and Nothing Changes. It's this little ditty that expands a bit on what we've talked about here today on creating and understanding the dance between doing and being in the creation process. So if that feels like it's speaking to you, I hope you'll head over to Substack and check it out. The link is in the show notes. And for anyone who is currently feeling like your entire foundation is uprooting or needs to be uprooted and rearranged, just keep going. Don't quit before the finish line. Until next time, bye for now. If this episode spoke to your soul, I want you to know you don't have to do this alone, but you do have to start with you. Begin with my free quiz to discover which worthiness wound is keeping you small. Then deepen the conversation by joining me over on Substack. All the links are in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget, you matter. The Worthiness Rebellion continues.